I was given 5 minutes to clear my desk before my wife's father, the CEO, dismissed me in front of the entire leadership team. Instead of breaking, I smiled and said, "Thank you." One by one, 22 colleagues quietly stood and followed me out. 4 minutes left, Robert announced, tapping his Rolex. I kept packing my desk, 6 years fitting into a cardboard box. 12 executives watched in silence from the conference room. Lisa Chen examined her nails from my chair. Yes, my chair, thinking she'd won. That's when Daniel Martinez stood up outside the glass walls, laptop bag already on his shoulder. Then Maya Rodriguez, then David Kim. One by one, my entire 22-person team rose from their desks like dominoes falling in reverse. Robert's face went from red to gray. "What are you doing? Sit down. All of you, sit down." Nobody sat. Margaret Chen, our legal director, gripped her legal pad so hard her knuckles went white. She was frantically typing something on her phone, face completely drained of color. She knew exactly what Robert had just done and how much it was going to cost. "Thank you," I said clearly, meeting Robert's eyes, "for showing me exactly who you are." Then I walked to the elevator. All 23 of us, the entire product development division of TechCore Solutions, leaving in complete silence. Tom, the security guard who'd been there 15 years, whispered as we passed, "In all my time here, I've never seen anything like this." Neither had I. But let me back up, because this story doesn't start with my firing. It starts 3 weeks earlier, at Sunday dinner at Robert's estate. I'd been married to Michael Chen for 6 years when his father decided I was expendable. Robert Chen was CEO of TechCore Solutions, a $200 million enterprise software company based in Seattle. Michael was VP of Business Development, a title that meant he played golf with clients and took credit for deals he didn't close. His biggest contribution to the company was his last name and his ability to laugh at Robert's jokes. I was director of product development. I'd rebuilt our entire platform from the ground up, saved 3 major accounts that were threatening to leave, and increased our development efficiency by 340% in 2 years. My division was responsible for 60% of company revenue. Robert never acknowledged any of it. 3 weeks before my firing, I brought homemade lasagna to Sunday dinner at Robert's estate. I'd been up until 2 a.m. making it. Homemade pasta, sauce from scratch, the way my grandmother taught me. Patricia, Robert's wife, never mentioned who made it. She just served it on her Versace plates like she'd ordered it from the Italian place downtown. Same as always. "Another record quarter for TechCore Solutions," Robert proclaimed from the head of his mahogany dining table, raising his whiskey glass. "The Macallan 25, $800 a bottle." His hand landed heavy on Michael's shoulder. "My son's making us proud." Michael had closed exactly 0 deals that quarter. I knew because I'd personally reviewed the actual sales numbers while preparing our departmental budget presentation. "The Miller account came through," Michael said, smiling at his father. $22 million over 3 years. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I'd personally salvaged that account. Miller's CEO, Tom Davidson, had been ready to walk until I flew to Chicago on 48 hours' notice and rebuilt their entire implementation plan over a weekend. I'd worked in their conference room for 3 straight days, lived on coffee and takeout, personally rewrote 4,000 lines of code. Michael had shown up for the signature lunch, shook hands, and took the credit. "You're doing excellent work, son," Robert said. "Just excellent." "You look tired, dear," Patricia murmured to me, her 3-carat diamonds catching the chandelier light. "Perhaps you need better work-life balance. Have you considered yoga?" I'd been awake 36 hours straight, finishing the emergency system migration that had threatened to cost us $50 million in customer data. But admitting that would prove I was overwhelmed, which is exactly what Lisa Chen would claim in her email 2 weeks later. "Appearance matters for women in leadership," Patricia continued, eyeing my rumpled blazer. It was theory, $600, but I'd worn it twice that week because I'd been sleeping at the office on the couch in my office. "I'm fine," I said. "Of course you are." Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Though Michael mentioned you've been working quite late. Marriage requires balance, dear." Robert raised his glass again. "To family and to excellence. The Chen family tradition." Michael clinked his glass to mine. "Hard enough to hurt. Hard enough to send a message. Don't embarrass me in front of my father." I said nothing. I'd learned years ago that pointing out reality at these dinners only made things worse. But I also noticed Michael's brother wasn't there. Robert's younger son had moved to Portland 3 years ago and rarely came to family dinners anymore. He'd told me once, drunk at Christmas, that he couldn't stand watching our father play favorites. I was starting to understand why. 2 weeks before everything imploded, I got a misdirected email from lchenatechcoresolutions.com to rchenatechcoresolutions.com. Subject, Jackson account, urgent discussion. "Robert, I've successfully salvaged the Jackson situation. Perhaps fresh leadership would benefit the product development department. She seems overwhelmed by the scope. We should discuss transition planning. Best, Lisa Chen, senior product manager. The Jackson situation, the one I'd personally managed, working 3 straight weekends while Lisa posted wine tasting photos on Instagram. The one where I'd rebuilt their entire back-end infrastructure after their their previous vendor imploded. Lisa had CC'd herself on 2 status emails and called it salvaging the situation. I forwarded the email to my personal Gmail, self-preservation instinct. The next day, Lisa was suddenly attending executive meetings she'd never been invited to before, sitting in the back, taking notes, smiling at Robert like a student trying to impress a professor. I should have seen it coming. 7 days later, everything went wrong with our data migration. We were moving 10 years of customer data to a new AWS cloud infrastructure, 847 gigabytes of critical information, customer records, transaction histories, custom configurations, API integrations, everything that made TechCore valuable to its clients. The migration was scheduled for a maintenance window from midnight to 6 a.m. Everything that could fail, failed. At 12:47 a.m., the first database timeout error appeared, then corrupted files, then database integrity checks started failing. At 1:23 a.m., we discovered the backup system hadn't been running properly for 3 weeks. Someone had disabled it during routine maintenance and never turned it back on. At 2:15 a.m., a power surge at the server farm in Virginia corrupted the primary transaction database. We were looking at catastrophic data loss, $50 million in customer trust about to disappear. I called my team, all 22 of them, at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Daniel answered on the first ring. How bad? Catastrophic if we don't fix it in the next 4 hours. We're looking at complete data loss. I'm 20 minutes away. Maya left a first date at a restaurant in Capitol Hill. David drove from Seattle, 90 minutes each way, because his expertise in database architecture was irreplaceable. Sarah canceled her daughter's birthday party prep to remote in and help coordinate. By 3 a.m., we had everyone on laptops, some in the office, some working remotely, a 14-person assembly line of manual data recovery and verification. We wrote custom scripts to extract data from corrupted files. We cross-referenced backup logs to reconstruct missing records. We called customers at 4 a.m. to verify their most recent transactions. Daniel rebuilt database indexes by hand. Maya coordinated with AWS support, who stayed on the line for 5 straight hours. At 5:47 a.m., we had recovered 99.7% of the data. At 6:23 a.m., we verified every critical system was functional. Not a single customer record lost. Not a single transaction dropped. I sent the all-clear email. Migration complete. All systems operational. Customer impact, 0. Robert would never know we'd been minutes from losing $50 million in customer trust and another $100 million in lawsuits. He would never know my team had worked through the night to save his company. But Lisa Chen would claim credit for the successful migration in her next status report. I went home at 6:45 a.m. to shower. I had a presentation to give at 9 a.m. I arrived at 6:45 a.m. to present our quarterly review. The conference room was already full. Robert, Patricia, the entire C-suite, all 12 division heads. Lisa Chen was sitting in my chair at the head of the table. My laptop was open in front of her, displaying my department's confidential budget files. Robert gave me admin privileges, she said sweetly. For the transition. The word landed like ice water. The room felt wrong. People avoiding eye contact. Margaret Chen, no relation to Robert, just unfortunate last name, gripping her legal pad with white knuckles. Her assistant was frantically typing something on her phone. Let's begin, I said, connecting my laptop to the projector. My hands were steady. My voice was clear. I showed them everything. The 340% efficiency increase, the cost savings, the customer satisfaction scores, the successful migration that saved us from disaster just days ago. Robert barely looked at the screen. Then the door exploded open. Robert's face was red. His tie was crooked. He slammed his palm on the conference table hard enough to make coffee cups jump. You have 5 minutes to clear your desk. The room went silent. Excuse me? I said. You heard me. 5 minutes. Security will escort you out. On what grounds? Performance issues. Insubordination. Take your pick. His voice was shaking with rage. Not professional anger, but personal fury. You've been given every opportunity to succeed, and you've failed. Lisa will be taking over your division effective immediately. I stood there, presentation clicker still in my hand, watching Lisa lean back in my chair with barely concealed satisfaction. But I also saw David from finance frantically calculating something on his tablet. Margaret typing with shaking fingers, her face completely gray. Patricia staring at her husband like she'd never seen him before. They understood what I was starting to realize. Robert had just publicly humiliated and terminated an executive without cause, without documentation, without following a single HR protocol, in front of 12 witnesses. A legal nightmare. Thank you, I said clearly. Robert's jaw went slack. He'd expected tears, begging, an emotional breakdown that would justify his decision. I gave him nothing. I packed methodically. Backup drives with all my project files, stored in a locked drawer Robert didn't know about. Team photos, personal notes, the award I'd received last year for innovation excellence that Robert had handed me with all the warmth of a man giving a parking ticket. 1 minute, Robert called from the conference room, his voice wavering. That's when Daniel stood up at his desk outside the glass walls. He looked at me through the window, nodded once, and slung his laptop bag over his shoulder. Then Maya stood, then Sarah, then David. One by one, my entire 22-person team rose from their desks. Robert turned pale. What are you doing? This doesn't concern you. It concerns us, Daniel said quietly. We're with her. Lisa shifted from triumph to panic. You can't just... People have contracts. At will employment, Margaret said, her voice flat. They can resign at any time, as can she. She looked at me. You were about to resign anyway, weren't you? I hadn't been, but I understood what she was offering. Yes, I said. I resign, effective immediately. Noted, Margaret said, writing it down with shaking hands. For the record. We walked to the elevator. All 23 of us. Robert was shouting something about lawsuits and non-competes, but Margaret was already shaking her head, explaining why none of that would hold up. The elevator doors closed on Robert's red face and Lisa's dawning horror. Tom, the security guard, rode down with us. In 15 years, he whispered, I've never seen anything like this. Neither had I. 3 days later, my living room became Phoenix Technologies. 23 laptops on folding tables borrowed from my church, extension cords running everywhere, borrowed Wi-Fi barely handling the load. Coffee from my kitchen. I bought a commercial-grade maker at Costco on day 2 because we were going through 6 pots a day. We worked out of my house because none of us could afford office space yet. My savings would cover about 6 weeks of minimal expenses. After that, we'd need funding or we'd need to find jobs. Daniel was my CTO, Maya, head of UX, David, CFO, Sarah, head of client relations. We divided equity equally. Everyone got 2.5% in stock options, from senior developers to junior designers. No favorites, no nepotism, no corner offices or executive parking spots, because we were all working out of someone's living room. We build this together or not at all, I told them that first morning. Equal equity, equal voice, equal risk. This only works if we're actually a team. Like we've always been, Daniel said. On day 2, we started reaching out to contacts, former clients, industry connections, anyone who might need enterprise software solutions. On day 3, we got our first client meeting, a mid-size manufacturer in Tacoma who'd been unhappy with their TechCore implementation. They gave us a $40,000 contract to fix what Lisa's team had broken. It wasn't much, but it was proof of concept. On day 4, someone knocked on my door at 3:47 p.m. Jennifer Walsh, venture capitalist, 47 years old with silver hair and a reputation for finding overlooked talent. She'd built her career funding companies that established VCs had passed on, and watching them turn into unicorns. $3 million in seed funding, she said, sitting at my kitchen table while Maya made coffee. Series A terms. I want 15% equity and a board seat. How did you hear about us? Margaret Chen sent me your quarterly numbers from TechCore. Jennifer smiled. Along with a recording of that board meeting. Your numbers were incredible. Your team is loyal. 22 people following you out the door? That's worth more than any PowerPoint deck, and Robert Chen handed me the investment opportunity of the year by being too stupid to recognize talent. Why us specifically? Because I've watched TechCore for 3 years waiting for Robert to screw up badly enough that his talent would leave. You were underpaid, undervalued, and sitting on IP that's worth 10 times what you were being compensated for. Plus, she pulled out a document. I have pre-signed letters of intent from 4 companies who want to work with you specifically. That's $12 million in first-year revenue if you close them. The letters were from companies I'd worked with at TechCore. Major accounts. They wanted me, not TechCore's infrastructure. How long have you been planning this? I asked. Since Margaret called me 3 days ago and told me what happened. Jennifer's smile was sharp. Sometimes the best investments are the ones where someone else did the firing for you. We signed the term sheet that night. By week's end, 3 more TechCore clients called. Not Lisa, not Robert. They called me directly. They'd worked with me on their implementations, trusted my team's expertise, and wanted to know if we could help them solve some problems. 30 million in annual business, walking out the door behind me. Contracts that specified me by name as project lead. Contracts that gave them escape clauses if I left TechCore. Robert never knew those clauses existed. I'd negotiated them quietly over the years as insurance. Michael showed up on day 6 with roses. I'm allergic. I've told him this for 6 years. Dad will apologize, he said. He's offering you your position back. Executive VP title, 20% raise. And I was your wife. Past tense. I took the roses and dropped them in the trash. You chose his comfort over what was right. You sat there and watched him humiliate me and said nothing. I couldn't. He's my father. I know exactly who he is. That's why I'm done. He left. The roses stayed in the trash. Robert's lawyers called 2 days later. $800,000 settlement, the attorney said. Sign the NDA, return all proprietary materials, agree not to compete for 2 years. No. Ms. Chen, it's Ms. Rodriguez now, my maiden name, and the answer is no. You'd strongly advise covering up your client's massive legal exposure, public termination without cause, hostile work environment, potential age and gender discrimination, all witnessed and documented. Silence. Margaret sent me the recording, I said, from her phone. Everything Robert said, how he said it. The timeline showing Lisa already had access to confidential files before I was terminated. The emails proving she lied about the Jackson account. You want to go to trial with that evidence? I'll convey your position to my client. They called back 4 hours later with a better offer. I declined that one too, because Margaret had sent me something else. Recordings of 3 board meetings where Robert discussed succession planning for my position while I was still employed and performing excellently. Evidence of premeditation, evidence of conspiracy with Lisa to push me out. 50 million in potential damages if we went to court. 3 weeks after my firing, Lisa called me, sobbing. I deleted the customer database. What? I was trying to migrate it to a new system, to prove I could do what you did, and I deleted everything. Backups, archives, everything. The data team says it's unrecoverable. 50 million in customer data. Gone. Years of relationship history, transaction records, custom configurations, everything that made TechCore valuable to its clients. Gone because Lisa wanted to prove herself and didn't understand the first thing about database architecture. I'm going to be fired, she sobbed. Robert's going to destroy me. No, I said. Robert's going to destroy himself. I hung up. 2 days later, Patricia Chen filed for divorce. She served Robert at the country club during his regular Thursday golf game. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. Turns out, Patricia had been documenting his affairs for 3 years. The business trips that were actually weekends with his secretary. The corporate credit card used for jewelry that never appeared on Patricia's finger. She took him for 60% of everything in the divorce, including his share of TechCore. 6 months later, Phoenix Technologies hit 75 million in valuation. We had 40 employees, 3 offices, clients in 14 states. We'd just signed a partnership deal with Amazon Web Services that put us in the enterprise software conversation alongside companies that had been around for decades. Michael brought divorce papers to my office, our new office, the real one. With a view of Puget Sound. I should have stood up for you, he said. That day, I should have walked out with your team. Yes, you should have. Dad's been asking about you. I don't care. He's working out of a strip mall now, 3 employees. His LinkedIn posts get about 3 likes. The company's worth maybe 5 million. Lisa got fired 3 months ago after the client exodus. Mom took everything in the divorce. Good. That's it? Just good? What did you expect, Michael? Sympathy? Your father tried to destroy my career to give my job to someone unqualified because she flattered his ego. You sat there and let it happen. Your mother enabled it for years. And Lisa, I laughed. Lisa deleted $50 million of data trying to prove she could do a job she was never qualified for. He made mistakes. He made choices. So did you. I signed the divorce papers. Michael left. I went back to work. That night, I drove to the cabin I'd bought in the mountains. My cabin, purchased with my money, titled in my name only. No Michael, no Chen family, just mine. Daniel texted me a photo from the office. The whole team, still working at 11 p.m., smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Best decision we ever made." Jennifer Walsh sent a message too. "Series A funding meeting tomorrow, 20 million on the table. They're calling you the next tech disruptor. How's it feel?" I thought about Robert giving me 5 minutes to pack my life into a box, about Lisa sitting in my chair, about Michael bringing me flowers I'm allergic to and expecting that to fix everything. How did it feel? Like justice. Robert gave me 5 minutes to clear my desk. In return, I took his company's best talent, his biggest clients, his reputation, and his family. I didn't set out to destroy him. I just built something better. Sometimes that's the same thing. Phoenix Technologies went public 18 months later at a $400 million valuation. Robert's LinkedIn still has 3 likes per post. And my team, all 23 of us, we're still together, still building, still proving that talent recognizes talent, and loyalty isn't bought with paychecks, it's earned by showing up when someone's back is against the wall. Robert thought he was firing me. He was actually setting me free. Best 5 minutes of my life.